Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. I am not sure why my assistant sergeant of arms are not calling for order, but they say, Madam Speaker, when I come in. Now, when they are supposed to assist Madam Speaker, they are all quiet. You see? Doing very well. Thank you very much, honorable members. And I am worried that our member of parliament who is very loyal to be in this house from the executive is sitting on the second row. I don't know who's going to call Rule 92 today. Order, honorable members. I will now ask the secretary to read the order of the day.
Debate on vote number 1, the Presidency Appropriation Bill.
Honorable the President. Mr. President, I was worried. I thought, Mr. President, for a while, I thought your iPad has been lost.
No.
Over to you, President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, and honorable members and fellow South Africans. In 2 days from now, which is on Friday, the 18th of July, South Africans, and indeed the world, people will celebrate Nelson Mandela Day. Madiba helped us see that we can achieve a great deal as a nation by staying true to the vision of a better, more equal, as well as a more prosperous South Africa, by working together to achieve a vision that South Africa indeed can be a successful nation if we put our minds to it. Today, the world faces real and significant challenges, and so do we as a country and as a nation. We face an increasingly volatile world with many disruptions to global trade, as well as deepening conflicts that are raging in many parts of the world. We face high levels of unemployment in our own country, as well as low economic growth that has not enabled us to create the number of jobs that we all wished to create. We face the corrosive effects of corruption and pervasive crime to which the poorest amongst us are most vulnerable. We also face the daunting task of building a state that is capable of tackling the challenges of the time and restoring the trust of our people. It is with these challenges in mind that we formed the Government of National Unity to place our country on a more stronger footing, to be able to have economic growth, as well as to foster transformation and to move ahead on the path of peace and prosperity. As we established the Government of National Unity, we understood that we were embarking on what you could call a new era in our democracy. We understood then that it would be complex and that we would be faced with novel challenges that we would need to navigate. We have together adopted the Medium-Term Development Plan, which outlines clear actions that we need to take over the next 5 years in pursuit of the 3 strategic priorities that we have set out for ourselves. Firstly, to drive inclusive growth and job creation. Secondly, to tackle poverty, as well as to address more effectively the high cost of living. And thirdly, to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state. Across all ministries, all departments, and all national entities that we have, there is a commitment to implement the actions on which we have agreed and to move with urgency and purpose to address the needs of all South Africans. Most importantly, there is a shared understanding that we need to rise above our differences and work together to progress or to make progress on the important challenges that our country faces. The approach of the Government of National Unity is to enhance national cohesion, nation building, and to build partnerships across society to advance the common interests of South Africans. And to seek this whole purpose, we agreed that we would have a national dialogue amongst many other things we would do. And this is being convened in response to the many calls that were made by individuals, leaders, eminent persons, as well as various formations from across society. This initiative has received widespread support and has been endorsed by the Government of National Unity as a process that is significant to develop a social compact that will enable us as South Africans to meet the aspirations of the National Development Plan. At every important moment in the history of our country, we have come together as South Africans to define a shared vision and to forge a path into a future in dialogue with one another. The national dialogue is not just about talking. Like with CODESA, like with the National Peace Accord, like with the consultation process that we all went through as we drafted our new constitution, the national dialogue is expected to produce real results that have a tangible impact on the lives of our people. We are all called upon to use this moment of this national dialogue as an instrument of fostering development, transformation, progress, national cohesion, and national unity as well. This dialogue does not displace the democratic processes that are mandated by our Constitution, nor does it divert us from the electoral mandate that this Parliament was given by the people of South Africa. As the national dialogue process continues, the government will continue to take action to address immediate concerns that all South Africans share, to grow our economy, to create jobs, to tackle corruption and crime, and to fix local government. The medium-term development plan sets specific measurable targets for each of the programs that we need to embark upon as set out in various budget votes. And those budget votes quantify the resources that we will need to reach the targets that will be articulated. However, the true measure of success is the impact that we will have on improving the lives of our people. Everything that this government does, from trade negotiations to economic reforms from the professionalization of the public service to the support for farmers, for small business, is directed towards meeting the needs of the people of South Africa and securing their future. The role of the presidency in all this is to coordinate the work of government towards this end and to make sure that our commitments and actions are directed at meeting the needs of South Africans. Our most important priority is to grow the economy and to create jobs. We are working across government to boost infrastructure investment, to ensure that infrastructure development does become the true flywheel of economic growth in our country. We are using the infrastructure fund to invest in the roads that link communities, the bridges that connect them, to ensure that their economic interests are advanced. We're using these investments to ensure that water projects that supply expanding cities and our towns do indeed reach our people through the pipes that we lay. We have amended the regulations for public-private partnerships to make it easier for those who have money, that is the private sector, to invest in infrastructure ranging from renewable energy to the generation and to housing, and to encompass all other areas where we need infrastructure. This infrastructure has a direct impact on people's lives, providing the services that they need, reducing the cost of living, as well as improving the business environment, and by so doing, encouraging economic activity in the places where our people live. We're following through on our commitment to invest more than 1 trillion rand, as announced by the Minister of Finance in his budget speech, in infrastructure over the next 3 years to renew our country's roads, port, rail, energy, as well as water systems. South Africans benefit when the economy grows, when jobs are created, when established industries expand and new industries emerge. To ensure that our industrial policy promotes local economic activity, we are repositioning our industrial policy to ensure that we look at opportunities in diversification, in decarbonization, and digitalization as well, as we embark on measures to ensure that the incentives that we provide and enabling initiatives are able to create a conducive environment for businesses to grow. That is why we are redirecting our development finance institutions to be more active investors themselves in emerging industries and introducing tax incentives for new energy vehicles from next year. We are pursuing critical minerals and metal strategy recently approved by Cabinet to ensure that our country's mineral wealth creates jobs and produces value here in South Africa, and particularly in the areas where those minerals are extracted. Our national policy on the commercialization of hemp and cannabis aims to improve the livelihoods of those people who live in rural areas, targeting 10% annual growth in this emerging industry. Communities in our cities and rural areas alike will benefit from rapid growth that we are seeing in tourism. More than 9 million international tourists visited our country in the past year, directly spending over 90 billion rand. This is thanks in large measure to the reforms that we have embarked upon in the visa system, targeted tourism promotion in key markets, and the support that is being given to local companies that are involved in the tourism business. To encourage the growth of micro, small, and medium enterprises, we are continuing the work to remove regulatory constraints and to simplify business licensing. This, whilst is a difficult area to traverse, we are beginning to see progress that is being made. For we have found difficult for regulations that have been made to be changed, to be amended in order to enhance the type of business growth that we seek. But we will get there. We are refining our financing offerings to the businesses in our townships and rural areas, recognizing that different types of businesses have different needs at different stages of their own existence and development. To accelerate economic growth and create jobs, we are moving ahead with the economic reform agenda that we introduced through Operation Vulindlela, with the presidency providing strong leadership and coordination to ensure that the reforms that we have embarked upon are implemented. In the energy sector, working together with all stakeholders, we've made outstanding progress in reducing the severity as well as the frequency of load shedding. There was a time when daily load shedding was the norm. Now it is the exception. We are putting in place the foundations for a competitive electricity market to unlock massive new investment in energy generation. This will result in lower electricity costs as we move on for all South Africans and more renewable energy to power our economy. We have also made significant progress towards enabling innovative public and private investment in our transmission network. Implementation of the Just Energy Transition continues to progress, coordinated in the way that we will ensure that it does yield the results we want. There are growing projects in the Just Energy Transition, in the pipeline thereof, in various places in municipalities as well. There's also another added benefit that we are getting out of this, the skills development process, as we embark more and more on renewable energy generation. Total international pledges to support our Just Energy Transition now amounts to about 12.8 billion rand, or dollars rather, or around 230 billion rand. This investment will go directly into renewable energy projects where the communities that are affected by the transition will be able to be at the center of the focus that our work will entail. Through this work, South Africa is leading the world in many ways in showing what a truly just energy transition should look like. And through this process, yes, we are learning even from our own mistakes as we move ahead. We are also following through on our reform commitments in the logistics sector. We have continued to make progress in removing our visa system, reforming our visa system to attract skills and grow our tourism. The electronic travel authorization system will be launched later this year. The Department of Home Affairs has made great progress in clearing the visa application backlog, which stood at around 306,000 applications in March of 2024. Now, through these reforms, we are steadily removing the obstacles to growth and paving the way for a new phase of investment and job creation in our economy. The work of Operation Vulindlela shows the importance of a capable presidency at the center of government, fulfilling a coordinating role and working very closely with all departments and agencies responsible for implementing the various initiatives that need to be implemented so as to deliver good services across the state. The greatest challenge that faces our country today is youth unemployment. Approximately 3.8 million out of 10.3 million young South Africans aged 15 to 20 years are currently not in employment, education, or training. These are young people with energy, with initiative, as well as untapped potential. As we pursue faster and more inclusive growth, as government, we have undertaken programs of a large scale to provide opportunities for young people to earn an income, to develop skills, and to gain work experience. Through innovative and targeted interventions, the presidential employment stimulus has continued to demonstrate that when a society invests in its people, particularly in its young people, the dividends are measured in hope, restored, and futures that are rewritten. In June of this year, we began a new phase of the Basic Education Employment Initiative, with over 200,000 young people being brought in to work as school assistants in over 20,000 schools across the country. This initiative has now created opportunities for over 1 million young people to serve as assistants in schools, supporting teachers in classrooms, in school administration, as well as in school maintenance. Having been to a few schools and have seen this in action, one cannot but be impressed with the manner in which our young people have taken up this opportunity. The program has been designed to strengthen the learning environment, which is a great benefit for our schools and learning outcomes as well. But in the process, the participants gain work experience and the skills that are vital to finding employment and to starting their own businesses as they embark on their own life journeys. Young people face many barriers. Without established networks in the economy, without any work experience, without money for things like data and transport, it is difficult for many young people even to look for work. To address these challenges, we also launched the SA Youth Mobi platform in 2020. Since then, it has linked a growing number of young people to learning and earning opportunities. There are now 4.7 million young people who are registered on SA Youth Network. Young people have been supported to access over 1.67 million earning opportunities having emanated from this platform. A significant achievement of South African youth in the vast majority of earning opportunities have been accessed by the most excluded young people. 70% of the opportunities have been accessed by young Black African women. Around 65% of the young people registered on SA Youth Platform reported that they live in households where at least one member receives a grant. This means that we are reaching some of the people who have the greatest needs in our country. With the support of government, the South African Employment Service, which is known as YES, has become the largest corporate-funded youth jobs program in the world. The program has to date provided over 190,000 young people with a year-long work experience opportunity. Through all these programs, coordinated by the presidency, we are changing the way that government works and scaling innovative solutions to our unemployment challenge. And as it is now, a number of people and countries are thronging to our doors to come and learn precisely how we have structured these programs and how they continue to operate. Honorable members, education is at the center of our fight against poverty. The foundational years are central to a child's progress through their educational journey, and even later on in life. That is why our focus is on expanding access to quality early childhood development and early grade literacy and numeracy as well. We continue our efforts to ensure that learners have a safe and conducive environment in which to learn. To date, we have completed 97% of the sanitation projects under the SAFE initiative aimed at getting rid of pit latrines in our schools. The Department of Basic Education is undertaking the work that is needed to implement the Basic Education Law Amendment Act to ensure that all children have access to quality education as well as to well-run schools. We continue efforts to expand and to strengthen vocational training to match the skills we develop with the skills that are needed in our economy. Through NSFAS, we are expanding access to students from poor and working class families. And with the support of the National Schools Fund, we're expanding assistance to the missing middle. This year, NSFAS has supported over 800,000 university and TVET college students. This provides opportunities to young people today that will, in time, transform our economy and society and lead our country. In order for us to give access for all people to quality health care, we have determined that we will address the poor state of our hospitals and clinics. Yes, we are investing in construction, revitalization, and maintenance of facilities of our health centers across the country as our budgetary capability becomes available. To address the severe challenges in health and in the preparation of the implementation of the NHI, we are directing resources towards hiring more doctors, more nurses, and health professionals, as well as the permanent employment of community health workers and purchasing the equipment and supplies that are needed in our health facilities. We are also determined to meet our HIV testing and treatment targets. Despite the withdrawal of the United States funding, the Minister of Health has reported on the progress that is being made, working together with stakeholders to mobilize resources to fill the gap that has resulted from the shortage or pulling of funding. The South African National AIDS Council, which is led by the Deputy President, remains at the center of our HIV/AIDS response, mobilizing all sectors and putting stakeholders to ensure that we end AIDS as a public health pandemic. For us to effectively tackle any of these challenges, we need to build a capable state with institutions that are resistant to corruption or interference. The recent adoption of the Public Service Commission bill by the National Assembly marks a crucial milestone, enhancing the independence and effectiveness of the Public Service Commission in the work that it has to do to promote ethical governance. The bill will, in the end, enhance and allow the Commission to function as an impartial constitutional body and to ensure that the executive is compelled to act on the Commission's recommendations, thereby reinforcing accountability across the public sector. To make government work more efficiently and to bring it closer to the people, the Digital Transformation Roadmap was launched in April of this year. The roadmap itself focuses on building digital public infrastructure, including a digital identity for every South African. It includes a digital payment system to enable instant, low-cost payments and interoperable data systems to ensure that citizens only have to provide their information to government once. The integrity and credibility of the criminal justice system is vital to the ongoing efforts to combat crime as well as corruption. Over the last few years, we've made significant progress in rebuilding, as well as strengthening law enforcement agencies, security services, and prosecutorial bodies. These changes have been real and visible in the South African Police Service, in the Hawks, in the National Prosecuting Agency, as well as the Asset Forfeiture Unit, the Special Investigating Unit, the State Security Agency, and others. We are determined to maintain the momentum that we have built on. We must therefore be concerned when reports emerge and allegations are made to threaten and to undermine the stability and effectiveness of these institutions. I have recently established 2 commissions of inquiry that in different ways will interrogate aspects of our criminal justice system. The first one is chaired by Judge Sisi Kampempe, which will look to the past. I see there's quite a bit of excitement on this side. Now, this commission, Honorable Speaker, as I take a sip of water, will investigate allegations of undue interference in the investigation of prosecutions of apartheid-era crimes. Not only is the commission necessary to ensure that justice for the victims of apartheid-era crimes and their families, but it will provide valuable lessons as we strengthen our efforts to ensure accountability now and into the future. The second, Honorable Speaker, is that which I announced on Sunday, which will be chaired by Acting Deputy Chief Justice Moiseli Madlanga, which will investigate allegations by the South African Police Service Provincial Commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi alleged that the Minister of Police had interfered with sensitive police investigations and colluded with business people, including a murder accused, to disband the political killings task team based in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, these allegations are serious. They are also untested. It is therefore necessary that we establish the facts through an independent, credible, and thorough process so that we can ensure that there is accountability as well as safeguard public confidence in the police service. It is therefore strange that some people have voiced strong opposition to the establishment of this inquiry. Some have even said that I should take immediate punitive steps against Mr. Senzo Mchunu on the basis of untested allegations. Not only would this be unfair, but it would also create a very dangerous precedent. Now, on this one, the commission should be allowed to do its work. Some people have even resurrected the tired line that commissions and panels that we have established in the past have produced meaningless results. This view is wrong. It is not borne out by evidence. In 2018, we established a commission on the South African Revenue Service chaired by Judge Robert Nugent. The commission's findings and recommendations resulted in a comprehensive overhaul of SARS. It also resulted in the governance structures of SARS and the operational capability of SARS being revamped. This has enabled SARS to significantly increase revenue collection, improve compliance, and recover substantial sums of unpaid tax. The Commission of Inquiry into the Public Investment Corporation, the PIC, which was chaired by Judge Lex Mpati, exposed serious governance failures and led to far-reaching institutional reforms at the PIC. These commissions resulted in disciplinary actions and the cancellation of unlawful contracts. The implementation of the recommendations of the high-level panel on state security agency have contributed significantly to SSA stabilization and recovery. It has also improved oversight and accountability, and the structural reforms contained in the General Intelligence Law Amendment Act. Following the recommendations of the expert panel into the 2021 civil unrest, government has taken steps to ensure better intelligence coordination, capacitating public order policing, strengthening community policing forums, as well as strengthening and streamlining the functionality of the National Security Council. In the 3 years since the final report of the State Capture Commission was presented to the President, the government has undertaken major reforms based on the recommendations. 8 new laws have been enacted to strengthen our anti-corruption institutions, enhance procurement system, reform the intelligence services, as well as to improve corporate accountability and public administration. The value of assets that were linked to state capture that have been recovered by the state now stand at 11 billion rand, by March of this year.
Order, honorable members, let's not have running commentary.
Now,
You
another,
can have an opportunity, I'm sorry, Mr. President, you can have an opportunity to interject, but you can't have a running commentary. And also, if you have got different views, your parties will have an opportunity to speak. Mr. President, you can proceed.
thank you, Honorable Speaker. My apology. Another 10.6 billion rand is currently frozen, awaiting the outcome of cases that are in court. There are criminal cases arising from the State Capture Commission that have been concluded, all with guilty verdicts. Other cases involving 51 individuals and 27 companies are currently enrolled in court. Now, each of these commissions and panels did succeed in unearthing information and made findings that were critical to understanding the events that took place then. They were essential in ensuring accountability, providing recommendations on the strengthening of our institutions and processes. Now, these commissions and panels show that a government does take responsibility and that it is committed to being transparent and accountable. It's not independent.
Honorable Tubase, can you please switch your gadget? Switch off? You can proceed.
Honorable Speaker, we continue to make progress in all these matters since its establishment last year. The NPA's investigating directorate against corruption has authorized over 120 matters involving more than 215 of the most high-profile state capture corruption accused. Over 80 cases are currently under investigation and approximately 40 of them have already been enrolled. The NPA itself is using new technology to conduct complex investigations through the rapid, efficient analysis and documentation of digital evidence. South Africa has substantially completed all 22 action items that were contained in the action plan adopted when South Africa was grey-listed in February 2023. Now, this paves the way for an on-site visit, which is the final step before FATF can delist South Africa. We are at the midpoint of the implementation of the strategic plan on gender-based violence and femicide. Yet violence against women and children continues unabated. It remains a pandemic that shames the men of our nation. While we can point to progress in responding to instances of gender-based violence, from clearing the historical DNA backlog to increasing conviction rates and improving victim services in police stations, our greatest challenge is to prevent gender-based violence incidents from taking place in the first place. Our efforts to prevent gender-based violence needs special focus. They need to be intensified, they need to be massively scaled up and include all sectors of society. We need to give greater attention to the social factors, such as alcohol abuse, that fuel such violence. The impact of weak governance is felt the most at the local level. We recognize that many of our cities, as well as towns, are failing to deliver basic services to our people, thus creating serious challenges for businesses and the residents of our towns and cities. We have initiated a comprehensive reform of the local government system, underpinned by a review of the white paper on local government that is being piloted by the Minister of Cooperative Governance. While this reform process is underway, the Presidency is providing targeted intervention and support in some struggling municipalities, starting with eThekwini and Johannesburg. Working groups established in both of these cities have brought together mayors, senior officials from local, provincial, and national government, business, civil society, as well as labor organizations to tackle the most urgent problems that some of these cities are facing. The progress made since we established the Presidential eThekwini Working Group shows that this model does work. It is underpinned by the district development model. In the last year, the tourism sector in eThekwini has seen significant recovery, with a 33% growth in domestic trips in 2024, contributing over 17 billion rand to the local economy. The Presidency is uniquely positioned to bring together the many stakeholders within and beyond government who must work together to turn our cities around. Honorable members, South Africa's international standing has been greatly enhanced in recent years despite the increasingly challenging global circumstances in which we pursue our national goals and interests as a country. Multilateralism is on the retreat. Global stability and development are being threatened in the main by unilateral and coercive economic measures that a number of international players are resorting to. Conflicts in some parts of the world are having economic, political, and social consequences far beyond the areas of conflict. The erosion of rule-based multilateralism undermines efforts to achieve a level playing field in economic relations and places emerging markets such as ours in a vulnerable position. The economic uncertainty that arises from these developments dampens the growth prospects of the economies of many countries, particularly in the global south. Last week, we received notification in a letter from President Trump to myself that exports from South Africa to the United States will attract tariffs of up to 30% from the 1st of August 2025. This could have a substantial impact on the products that we export to the United States. We have already seen how just the mere news of the intention to impose tariffs has dampened the ability of a number of exporters from our country to the United States, and we have seen how some companies have had their exports declining by up to 80%. But right at the moment, we welcome the commitment by the US government since we met them in the White House and following engagements that we have had with them after their letter, that the 30% tariff is subject to modification pending the conclusion of negotiations between our two countries. Those negotiations have commenced. At the same time, we continue to work to diversify our export markets and to build a more resilient domestic economy. And in this regard, we call on our producers who export goods to be actively involved in diversifying their own markets and to engage and enlist government assistance in various countries where they wish to export to. We continue with our efforts to strengthen our relations with the United States, which still remains a strong investment and trading partner to our country. Our successful working visit to the US in May reaffirmed the importance of keeping the channels of dialogue open and established a basis for greater engagement and cooperation, which, as I said, is ongoing. Organizations that seek to use South Africa's relations with other countries to advance their own domestic agenda do undermine our national interests and efforts. We are now at the halfway mark of our G20 presidency. So far, nearly 70 of the 130 planned official meetings or engagements have taken place, and we are glad that they have continued to take place in various parts of our country, in our various cities, in various provinces. We are making progress in engagement with fellow G20 countries on the central themes that we have identified for our presidency. Through our participation in other fora, such as the BRICS Summit, which ended just a few days ago in Brazil, and the G7 Summit, which we attended in Canada, we have reinforced our position on critical issues of concern to all G20 countries and beyond G20 countries as well. These issues include debt sustainability and financing for development and climate action. We are seeking agreement on the sustainable approach to critical and rare minerals that benefits the communities and countries where those resources are extracted and found. Throughout our participation in G20 meetings over the last half year, we have sought to advance shared solutions to common problems, to promote the African agenda, and to place the interests of the Global South firmly on the global agenda. As we reflect on our place in the world, we express our horror and dismay at the continued genocide that is taking place in Gaza. More and more Palestinian civilians are being killed every day. Millions face starvation which is being used as a weapon. Homes, hospitals, and other essential infrastructure are continuing to be destroyed. The fact that these atrocities are taking place in the plain view and sight of the international community with no concerted effort to end them is a damning indictment on the leaders in the world. The stance that South Africa has taken on the genocide in Gaza, including the application that we have made to the International Court of Justice, is founded on our commitment to peace and justice. We are equally concerned at the grave humanitarian situation and the deaths of so many people in Sudan. The conflict is taking a huge human toll. It is estimated that over 30 million people need aid and some 12 million people are displaced. The international community has a responsibility to support regional and other efforts to end the conflict and to provide the assistance that the people of Sudan desperately need. As the situation in the Eastern DRC enters a new phase, the South African Development Community, SADC, that is mission, has ended, and our personnel are being withdrawn in a phased manner. The majority of them have already returned home. As we welcome the return of our soldiers, we remember with great sorrow the 14 soldiers who lost their lives alongside soldiers from other Southern African countries, to bring peace and security to that region. We are hopeful that the parties to the conflict will now engage in the envisaged dialogue and cessation of hostilities, which will culminate in an all-encompassing political process that leads to a lasting solution. Our withdrawal was seen as a confidence-building measure that would enable a peace to be found in that part of the world. And indeed, we continue to keenly observe and in some instances participate in various peace efforts that we hope will solidify the peace that is so needed in that part of the world. South Africa remains part of the initiatives to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict and achieve a just and lasting peace. We continue to get involved in various iterations that are meant to bring that conflict to an end, hopefully sooner rather than later. While many of these conflicts are far from our shores, we have an interest in seeing them resolved. Our history places on us a moral responsibility to strive for an end to suffering and oppression around the world. We also have obligations under international law to prevent genocide and ensure accountability for atrocities. It is in our interests as a country to ensure that international law is upheld and consistently applied, and that global bodies like the United Nations Security Council are effective in ensuring peace and security. And we will, as a country, continue to intensify our efforts to reform those global institutions to ensure that they are representative and inclusive. In our view, it continues to be unacceptable that 1.4 billion Africans have no permanent representation of the UN Security Council. It is these laws and these institutions that we will look to for protection and support as we confront uncertainty of a changing world. Our message for the reform of the United Nations Security Council is continuing to spread, and in many centers it is beginning to sink. So we will not let up on continuing to harp on the issue of the reform of the United Nations Security Council, so as to enable the peoples of our continent, particularly other countries also in the global south, to be well represented in a body that was founded on ensuring that there will be peace in the world. Honorable members, a tree survives through winds by its deep and extensive roots, anchoring itself in the soil. Its flexible branches can bend and sway with the wind, enabling the tree to adjust to changing circumstances. A forest of trees works together to withstand a storm. The closeness of the canopies breaking the wind's force is what gives the forest strength. Like a baobab tree of the Limpopo province or a yellowwood of the Eastern Cape province, our roots have been made firm by experience. As the wind picks up around us, they will hold us to the ground. The formation of the Government of National Unity has inspired new hope in South Africans that we can make progress in addressing our most urgent challenges. And indeed, following the elections, the fact that we were able to set up a body like this has also inspired a lot of hope in the hearts of many South Africans. Our task is therefore clear. We must grow our economy. We must create jobs. Yes, we must reduce poverty and tackle corruption and crime. And as we do so, we should be well armed with a state that is capable of ensuring that the people of our country have the best that they can get. While we will always have differences and disagreements, we are all committed to that we must go through in order to deliver a better South Africa to all the people who live here. We must combine the strength of our principles and our convictions with an openness and willingness to listen, but to listen to one another and to adapt. The presidency will continue to lead government in ensuring that we do so and that we deliver a better South Africa to all our people. Madam Speaker, I hereby commend the Presidency Budget Vote to the National Assembly and look forward to the debates that are going to ensue here. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable President. Honorable Chief Whip of the largest party, Honorable Ntuli.
You. No, I mean. No, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, Your Excellence, the President of the Republic of South Africa, honorable members. Madam Speaker, I think it's important that let me begin my comments in this debate on the budget vote one of the presidents by stating something which I believe is obvious to all of us, which nevertheless must still be stated. That issue, Madam Speaker, relates to the central role of the central role that Parliament and parliamentarians must never forget. That we sit in this position of leadership for the sole purpose of loyally serving the people of South Africa. I'm therefore convinced that all of us will agree that one of the most important and urgent challenges facing our people is to defeat poverty and unemployment. Our leadership echelons from Parliament, business, labor, and civil society must work together in response to this perennial crisis. We have to act in unity and with a united approach in extricating our country from the general crisis in which it is deeply immersed. Madam Speaker, I'm raising this concern because it is my considered view that there are some among us, sometimes including within the government of national unity, whose genuine commitments towards the eradication of poverty and unemployment leave so much to be desired. It is difficult to imagine a solution to any of our complex problems and challenges, such as gender-based violence, safety and security, economic growth, defeating poverty and unemployment, without having the caliber of leadership suitable to achieve these noble objectives. I will come back to this matter later in my comments because I believe that it is central to everything that we have to do in order to succeed in our purpose. Madam Speaker, on the 26th of June 2025, marked the 70th anniversary since the adoption of the historic and seminal document, the Freedom Charter by the people of South Africa, black and white. Necessarily, the Charter guided the prosecution of our struggle, of our liberation struggle, and also became central in defining the content of a democratic South Africa we live in today. During the 1940s and the early 50s, a mass campaign was mounted against oppressive laws, and this culminated to the Congress of the People. The Congress Alliance was born during the campaign of defiance against unjust laws. In the face of the growing state repression, the movement intensifies its challenge against the regime by outlining a vision of an alternative society. This led to the Congress of the People, an open assembly of democratically elected delegates held in 1955, which adopted the Freedom Charter. Madam Speaker, it was that historic Congress of the People which declared that, and I quote, "We, the people of South Africa, declare for all in our country and the world to know that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and that no government can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. That our people have been robbed of their birthright to land, liberty and peace by a form of government founded on injustice and inequality. That our country will never be prosperous or free until our people live in brotherhood and adopt this Freedom Charter. And as we pledge ourselves, the Congress continues to strive together, sparing neither strength nor courage, until democratic changes here set out have been won," unquote. Madam Speaker, the central message from the Congress of the People was very clear. Majority of our people engage in a struggle against oppression and oppressive laws. The Charter redefined the struggling. It was absolutely clear that the main aim was no longer to modify the existing order or to reform a society whose basis was fundamentally flawed. Rather, a complete new order based on the will of the people was put on the national agenda. In many respects, the Freedom Charter was a response to historical injustice consciously perpetrated against the majority in our country. These majorities and their primal concerns were also excluded on the agenda of the conference of the synod of the Dutch Reformed Church held in Stellenbosch in 1983, which was to investigate what was called the poor white problem. The conference gave birth to Transvaal Indigence and Kennesh Commissions of 1908 and 1932, respectively, both of which stood on the firm foundation of colonial dispossession and later the post-apartheid 1948 apartheid project. The reality with which we must contend with is that the legacy of colonialism and apartheid stubbornly remains with us. None of us in their right mind can deny the fact that in our country, economic advantages and disadvantages were and remain socially and politically engineered by processes. It is in this context that since 1994, the democratic state has sought to put in place legislative and policy framework designed to transform South Africa into a truly non-racial, non-sexist, and a prosperous country in all its aspects. The legislative interventions, such as Basic Education Law Amendment Act, the Bella Act, the Employment Equity Act, among others, are intended to give content to the assertion in the Freedom Charter that, as I quote, "Our people have been robbed of their birthright to land, liberty and peace by a form of government founded on injustice and equality, and that our country will never be prosperous or free until our people live in brotherhood and adopt the Freedom Charter." Madam Speaker, it will be difficult not to come to the conclusion that those who oppose the transformation agenda in our country are loyal descendants of the Stellenbosch Dutch Reform Conference, whose main preoccupation even today remains the resolution of the poor white problem. It is perfectly clear that the right-wing conservative and their liberals allies are not committed to the project of social transformation in our country. Hence, we have seen them calling for foreign capitals to intervene in our domestic affairs. This is a conduct and a tendency we must confront and defeat. Comrade President, the ANC believes that the budget of the President is an important instrument to strengthen the Presidency so that it continues to discharge its responsibilities to the nation. The leading role of the President, particularly in Operation Vulindlela, is commendable and will undoubtedly reposition South Africa as the choice of investment. The continuing effort towards the restructuring and strengthening of the state institutions remain fundamentally important to the future of our country. It is also in this context that we firmly support the decision of the President to set up a commission of inquiry to investigate the allegations pronounced by the KZN police commissioner. There was absolutely no better way, Comrade President, rather than setting up an investigation led by a judge as a legitimate platform through which the issues can be ventilated in order to ascertain the veracity or otherwise of these obviously very grave allegations. It is also my considered view that Parliament, as one of the organs of the democratic state, must urgently determine its own course of action and respond to these serious and grave allegations. Madam Speaker, during the State of the Nation, the reply to the State of the Nation address on the 13th of February 2025, President Cyril Ramaphosa had the following to say, and I quote, "The debate illustrated dangers of retreating to corners, isolating ourselves in ideological, cultural, racial, and linguistic enclaves, and hardly ever engage beyond their immediate circles. This is not conducive to nation building in a situation like ours, where diverse people live side by side. This is what makes the forthcoming national dialogue so important. South Africans, informed by their different lived experiences, can discuss the many challenges facing our nation and develop a common solutions. The journey we are embarking upon now through the national dialogue will result in a concrete process to become more united and stronger South Africa in the face of many political, social, economic challenges, both globally and locally," unquote. Madam Speaker, on the 26 years ago in 1999, a delegation made up of business and union leaders, which was called the Millennium Business Council, undertook a visit to the European countries, particularly in Ireland and Netherlands. Among other things, that delegation presented a report to the nation which read as follows, and Minister Mantashe was part of that delegation. The report says, and I quote, "Ireland and Netherlands were chosen for study tour because from a position of economic crisis in the 1980s, they had undergone a profoundly successful economic transformation to become among the top performing economies in Europe, and at the same time maintain acceptable social policies. In the process, these countries had been immensely successful in creating jobs and reducing unemployment significantly. While many of their European counterparts were experiencing rising levels of unemployment, a feature of a successful transformation in both countries had intense social dialogue and national consensus on key economic and social issues. The report went on to say, in respect of Ireland, in 1986, in response to its economic crisis, Ireland began to develop a national economic and social consensus involving government employees, trade unions, farmers, and other interest groups. The performance program covered wages, employment, competitiveness, development, taxation, education, health, and welfare. The programs also involve trade-off, for example, linking wage moderation, a shorter working week, and the tax income breaks for wage earners, which resulted in real increase in take-home pay, and I quote. So, Madam Speaker, it's important that we must continue to support the effort and the call made by the President for the country to engage in the national dialogue. I think we have all the reasons to disagree with the position publicly communicated by one of the leaders of one of the parties in the national government of national unity, especially the Honorable John Steenhuisen, that they are going to be pulling out of the national dialogue, and they are calling the national dialogue a sham and something that will not succeed because they are going to be pulling out. It's my considered view that nobody must be allowed to stop on the direction of the national dialogue. And the country must be afforded an opportunity from all sectors of society to engage and find a solution to the problems that continue to confront us. On the same vein, Madam Speaker, the leader of the EFF, the Honorable J.S. Malema, made a public interventions a few weeks ago. And of course, true to his own character, part of what he argued was that this national dialogue is not going to be a success and therefore should not be supported. And he based in his argument purely on the basis of the fact that the money that was allegedly pronounced without even a government official position is going to be the biggest scam of that period. I do want to say, Madam Speaker, that some of us were not surprised by the comment and the position adopted by the Honorable Malema in this regard, because we believe that he is part of the people who are not for the alternative of the country in which we can have dialogue, convince each other, agree on the direction and the compromises that each one of the sectors must enter into. But rather he believes and subscribed together, by the way, with the leader of the MK part on the politics of strong men, where decisions must be left to certain
Honourable
individuals.
Ntuli, could
for
you
them
please
to
take a
decide
seat?
what
There is
to
a
do.
point of order. Honourable Matiasi, what is your point of order?
Deputy Speaker, I think the member, the chief whip of the ANC, is deliberately deceiving and misleading the public by misquoting and distorting what the Commander-in-Chief says. And for that, I would want you to rain on him and declare him out of order because he's misquoting, distorting, and also misleading the public about what exactly the Commander-in-Chief said. Thanks, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Matiasi. I'm not in a position to determine whether that was indeed misleading or not, and we will therefore proceed. You may write to the Speaker, should you wish, so that there can be a ruling on this. Honourable Ntuli, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I think it's important to emphasize the point that our country will not succeed if it is subjected to the politics of strong men, and that nobody must be allowed to intervene and succeed to stop South Africans in their quest to determine the future they want and the future they do not want. Not even any of those parties represented in our National Assembly. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy Speaker, honorable members of this august House, fellow South Africans watching at home, all MK commanders, cadres, and ground forces, I salute you. I rise today on behalf of Umkhonto weSizwe Party, the true voice of the oppressed, the forgotten, and the betrayed. Today we stand here not to decorate this chamber with empty words, but to deliver a clear message of defiance and truth. We stand in absolute rejection of vote number 1 on the presidency and the National Assembly budget. This is so because we refuse to fund lies, hypocrisy, and a failed dream. We are living in a country where the price of bread decides whether a child eats or goes to bed hungry. A country where mothers pray not for rain, but for electricity so that they can cook a simple meal. We live in a South Africa where hope is more expensive than petrol, and dreams are as empty as the dry taps in our townships and villages. Mr. Ramaphosa, the presidency we debate today is not the house of the people. It has become a fortress of a conflicted and compromised president, a president broken beyond repair, leading a nation shattered by broken promises and shattered lives. This is a president whose couch swallowed millions in foreign currency, Ipalapa. while desperate South Africans trying to survive by selling food on street corners are harassed, chased, and arrested by police, you, Mr. Ramaphosa, hide dollars like a hustler stashing stolen goods under a
Honorable
mattress.
Shlope, please take. Honorable Shlope, please take your seat. There is a point of order. Honorable Skhosana, what is your point of order?
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I'm rising on Rule 84. The leader of the MKP here says the president is broken beyond repair. I don't think that is parliamentary in reference to the president.
Honorable Skhosana, honorable members, please allow me to rule. Honorable Skhosana, that is a matter of argument. It is not a point of order. Honorable Shlope, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And today, we are asked to fund this office to rubber stamp this betrayal. Never, never. Mr. Ramaphosa, you claim to fight corruption, yet you are the living, breathing embodiment of corruption itself. Under your watch, South Africa has become a land of commissions of inquiry without convictions. Endless talk shops designed to pacify the public while looting continues. We talk of a conflicted president.
Honorable Shlope, please take your seat. Honorable member, what is your point of order?
No, I'm rising on Rule 85, Deputy Speaker. The speaker on the podium intimates that the president hid stolen goods under his couch. Are discussing a special. I would like you to rule on this matter.
Honorable members, I will refer to the unrevised Hansard and come back with a ruling on that matter. But I also, honorable members, I do want to caution you as well on both sides of the House. Honorable members, we are in a House where we allow debate, where we have freedom of speech, and where we are allowed to voice our opinions. But if you do not agree, that does not mean that you have to rise on a point of order every time you don't agree with it. And it goes for both sides of the House. So, honorable members, please refrain from spurious points of order. Honorable Shlope, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. We talk of a conflicted president. General Mkhwana is in a revelation that should shake the foundations of this parliament, expose that the police are captured by criminal syndicates. SAPS is no longer a shield for the innocent. It has become a rented army protecting drug lords and criminal enterprises. But let us be clear, there are good men and women in SAPS, brave officers who protect our communities with integrity. These honest officers are being tarnished by a few rotten apples at the top. Recently, the head of crime intelligence and other senior officials were arrested, a sign of deep instability at the highest levels. Some even argue they were targeted for doing their jobs too well, which makes this arrest even more alarming and remarkable. The MK party stands firmly with General Mkhwana and all other government officials who stand for peace, justice, and the rule of law. We support those who expose the rot, no matter how high it goes. Mr. Ramaphosa, you speak of fighting corruption, yet you place your own Minister of Police on special leave instead of expelling him from the cabinet, as you recently did with regard to the DA Deputy Minister. Other ANC ministers who have damning allegations leveled against them are simply moved to different portfolios. This inconsistency reeks of selective morality. It shows that protecting your faction is more important to you than protecting the people of this country. Point of order. The late Chris once warned, I quote, "What I fear is that the liberators would emerge as elitists who will drive around in Mercedes-Benzes and use the resources of this country to live in palaces and to gather riches, close quote. Under your leadership, Mr. Ramaphosa, this fear has become our daily reality. We talk of a broken country, empty vessels make more noise. We talk from a broken country. ESCOM is broken, Transnet is broken, Prasta rusted and dead, SAA looted into a carcass, Dinel a ghost of his former self, municipalities bankrupt and drowning in sewer. While the people cry for service delivery, Mr. Ramaphosa's government delivers only excuses and consultants' invoices. The so-called government of national unity is nothing but a government of national convenience, a marriage of political opportunists who cannot agree on basic bread and butter issues, but unite to protect their seats and their stomachs. The DA and the ANC, under your leadership, now sleep in the same bed, under the same blanket of white monopoly capital. The same DA once spat on the Freedom Charter. It now shares cabinet space and dinner tables with your ANC. You call it unity, we call it treachery. Now we hear of your so-called national dialogue. Let me tell the people of South Africa what it really is. It's not a dialogue for the nation. It is an ANC election campaign funded by the taxpayers' money. Mr. Ramaphosa, you lead today a broken ANC, a party with the lowest membership in decades, a party that has lost key metros, a party that has become a mere shadow of its once proud self. Branches are non-existent, communities are leaderless, and the people have lost faith in you. But let us be clear. Let us be clear, this is not an accident. Your handlers, puppet masters behind the scenes planned this betrayal all along. They are using you to destroy the ANC from within.
Honourable,
and to hand
please take your seat. There is a point of order. Honourable DM, what is your point of order?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I was wondering if plagiarism is allowed here in the House because that's a photocopy of a speech of Honourable my man.
Honourable DM, that is not a point of order. Honourable Shlope, please proceed. Honourable Shlope, please proceed.
Thank you very much. They are using you to destroy the ANC from within and to hand this country back into the hands of the former oppressor. The future of the black child is at stake here. As MK, we say, we will not allow the soul of this country to be auctioned off to big businesses and colonial masters. We will defend that black child in the rural village, in the dusty township, in the overcrowded classroom. We will fight so that no child must choose between hunger and education, between dignity and survival. Our communities feel it every day. I met a gogo in Wembezi last month who recollects that she fetches water from a dish because the taps have been dry since October last year. In Soweto, a young mother told me that she uses paraffin because load shedding has destroyed her small catering business. In Hammarskraal, people drink contaminated water while you sip imported water in Mahlambandlovu. The late President de Klerk once said, and I quote, "If Cyril Ramaphosa takes over and keeps his promises, things will be better," close quote. Indeed, you have taken over and you have kept your promises. Your presidential promises have become funeral songs for the living. South Africans don't want televised apologies. South Africans want jobs, water, electricity, safety, land, and dignity. They want a president who feels their pain, not one who hides behind bulletproof glass and photo ops.
Honourable Hlophe,
We
please,
talk of a
please
broken.
take your seat.
Thank you, I will.
Honourable Member, what is your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, I just wonder if Honorable Hlophe can take a question
Honourable
because he's
Hlophe,
speaking
Honourable-
about
Honourable
broken
Member-
Zuma, broken Hlophe, broken
Honourable Member,
MKP.
you know well that you cannot
Order.
do that. Honourable Hlophe, would you like to answer a question? The Honourable Member will not answer a question. Please proceed, Honourable Hlophe.
Thank you very much. We talk of broken promises, land expropriation without compensation forgotten, free education for all forgotten, state-owned enterprises as engines of development sold off piece by piece to the highest bidder. What we have today is a captured presidency, captured by big white business, captured by billionaires who dictate policy while the poor continue to starve. Today, we're debating a budget to keep this charade alive. The National Assembly, under your watch, Mr. Ramaphosa, is supposed to be the watchdog of the executive. Instead, it has become a poodle sitting at your feet, begging for scraps of patronage. We, the MK Party, refuse to fund our own oppression. We refuse to legitimize this betrayal. We refuse to build a palace for a president while our people sleep under leaking roofs and cook on open fires. To my colleagues in this House, you stand at the fork in this road. You can choose to be complicit in the auctioning of this nation, or you can rise as true servants of the people. To you, Mr. Ramaphosa, you are no longer the architect of renewal. You are the demolition man of democracy. To the GNO partners, your alliance is not for the people. It is for power, it is for privilege, and it is for profit. We are asked to vote for this budget. The MK stands resolute. We will not. We reject this budget and vote one. We reject a president that has become a piggy bank for the elite. We reject a parliament that has turned into a silent spectator to national decay. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the people of this country are watching. They will remember who stood with them when they were hungry, jobless, and homeless and hopeless. The MK Party will continue to fight for the South Africa where land and wealth are shared, where children drink clean water, where the lights stay on, and where the president serves, not sells, the people. Let history record, we refuse to endorse these lies. We refuse to fund betrayal. We refuse to clap hands for a captured president. The MK Party stands firm. I end by asking you, Mr. President, corruption is so common in this country. It happens right under your nose. The question is, why can't you see it every day? Why can't you see it every day? What is the obstruction? I end you. Thank you.
The Honourable Botlani. Order, honourable members.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Mr. President, ministers, fellow South Africans, Bagolo Dumelang. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa is a pivotal piece of legislation which has served South Africa well. However, poor implementation has also meant that we are not where we are supposed to be, especially considering the investment that has been made on developmental projects. It is this very constitution that has empowered the government communication and information system, which stipulates that the public should be provided with timely, accurate, and accessible information. Mr. President, the authors of our constitution could not have imagined that in 2025, communications would be as advanced as it is today. However, the core principles remain as freedom of expression, accountability, transparency, and an open governance, which must be held as sacrosanct. The GCIS is well placed to provide strategic leadership and coordination of government communications, delivering on a mandate of informed citizens. However, the GCIS operates in a legislative vacuum. The intervention of the government communication policy in 2018 is no longer sufficient. The absence of legislation has led to unstructured output and frequent politicizing of the GCIS. Today, it is being used to promote the 700 million rands national dialogue. Before last year's national and provincial elections, the GCIS paid millions of rands in a series aired by the SABC to advertise the good work that was allegedly being done by the ANC government. Yet, with the formation of the Government of National Unity, the GCIS is failing to come to the party by communicating on behalf of ministers from the various parties. Perhaps this failure is because of the failure to fill critical vacancies like the Director General position, leading to targets not being met. Despite having a healthy budget, this, Mr. President, is unsatisfactory. The debate occurs as the SABC commemorates 75 years. I mention the SABC because the SABC has managed to reinvent itself, having transformed from being a state propaganda machine to a continent-leading public broadcaster. In running the GCIS, Honorable Minister, the presidency must follow a similar model to the SABC, where the GCIS holds a degree of financial and editorial independence. Speaking in this House a few days ago, Minister in the Presidency declared, print media is dead. This pierced the hearts of veteran journalists and those who run community medias, who hoped that the minister would have some confidence in the sector. The question then becomes, if print media is dead, what does that mean for the mandate of the MDDA? Do we just drop print media and move on, or do we do something about this? On the same platform, for my part, I asked this House to imagine a South Africa where literacy levels could be improved if learners could read community newspapers telling their own stories in their own languages. I maintain that this is a missed opportunity which speaks to the failure to understand the dynamics of our past and the failure to be aggressive about creating an informed citizenry. The DA welcomes the projected 172 million rands for MDDA projects throughout the MTEF period. The said projects will include both financial and non-financial support to community, small and commercial media. This budget is aimed at promoting indigenous language and contributing to community development. We call for these funds to be directed to forgotten communities that remain underserved. We further welcome the agency's commitment to intensify its focus on ensuring the sustainability of media projects in communities. We reiterate our position that opening new community media projects without a sustainability plan does more harm by causing regression once dependency and expectation has been created. We note the agency's budget in the upcoming period is allocated to grant funding for 66 community broadcast radio projects, either to help initiate new ones or strengthen existing ones, as well as 18 community and small commercial media print and digital projects. It is our belief that a rigorous research needs to be established when establishing media projects. DM Morolong, this is where we talk about quality over quantity. We also look forward to the implementation of the digital sector strategy, which aims to support 60 media projects with digital initiatives over the medium term. Poor focus on content creation has seen organizations such as the SABC lose audiences. As such, we are eager to see how the planned support of the 30 content production initiatives will contribute to support sustainability. My passion for community media is personal. My first job a year after completing matric was working as a volunteer at Kasi FM, a community radio station in Ekurhuleni, covering the Catharos areas. Mr. President, it is at this station that I embraced the concept of serving my people. I learned the importance of working in a professional environment. My story is not unique. Community radio stations are a training ground for commercial radio stations. Many radio and television personalities that are today famous and celebrated for their works started at community radio stations. As the DA, we believe in an independent and thriving media to promote equal opportunity society. Our ICT policy upholds that radio, both private and public, remains important channels of communications in South Africa. Indeed, there is a great value in supporting community media as well because they create jobs. And Mr. President, jobs give dignity. The slow pace of the government in producing legislation that will reflect the country's determination to adapt to global changes is a hindrance for the development of MDDA. The MDDA legislation is an act as promulgated in 2002, which is not a suitable way to manage the evolving sector like communications. Its mandate must be urgently re-evaluated. Centec, a state-owned communications infrastructure entity, is responsible for the distribution of broadcast sectors to over 130 community radio stations. What we have today is community radio stations that owe Centec for Centec transmission fees. Most of these stations are unable to cover these fees, Mr. President, which is crippling Centec. The point I want to make is that there is a possibility of a failure of one sector crippling another sector. So therefore, we call for the empowerment of MDDA via legislation to ensure that South Africa thrives. Ke a leboga.
The Honorable Nolochungu.
House Chairperson, let me begin by greeting the Commander-in-Chief and the President of the EFF, who today, like a true grounded revolutionary, is in his home ward in Seshego, defending Ward 13, which has been led by the EFF. We are more than confident that the EFF will retain the home ward of our President and continue serving our people. House Chairperson, today we are gathered to debate the presidency budget of an administration which is rotting from the head and which has surrendered our nation to criminal syndicates and drug cartels. The ANC, under the leadership of President Cyril Ramaphosa, has failed dismally to fulfill the very mandate his entire presidency ticket was based on, which is to uproot corruption. The corrupt under this government are shifted around and has not renewed the state. Instead, it has refined the machinery for corruption. It has been a presidency of scandals after scandal, cover-up after cover-up, and an astonishing eroding of the faith of our people in law enforcement agencies and Chapter 9 institutions. There has been no light at the end of the tunnel, but rather an oncoming train that has crushed the belief of ordinary people in democracy, justice, and opportunity. Let me begin with the most recent scandal. The Minister of Police, as reported by KZN Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Mukwanas, Minister Senzo Mchuna was caught dismantling the political killings task team, a unit with over 100 convictions, over 1,800 years in sentencing. He was exposed of dismantling it, withdrawing over 120 dockets in order to cover up his and many other ANC politicians' involvement in political assassination, in tender fraud, connections to criminal enterprise, such as that of Vusumzi Ket Matlala, who is said to have been sponsored ANC events and involvement in drug trafficking organizations in Gauteng and in KZN. However, despite this, as we stand here, Minister Mchunu was not fired. He was not arrested. He was put on special leave. Something that the president has no powers to do. This has been another character trait of the Ramaphosa presidency, akin to a dictatorship, where he conducts himself outside of the confines of the Constitution. We have written to President Ramaphosa this morning, pointing out to him that he is engaged in an undermining of good governance and plain constitutional delinquency. You cannot appoint an acting minister outside of parliament and cabinet. You cannot place a minister on special leave while he will continue to draw a salary and ministerial benefits, while he has no verifiable duties and functions. But because the presidency is committed to patronage, because the presidency is an extension of managing the factional affairs of the ANC, you undermine this country and taxpayers, and today you create a situation where there will be 2 ministers in the police ministry. You have undermined the confidence of our people even on mechanisms to uproot corruption such as judicial commissions of inquiry, because you are known to establish commissions, task teams, special units and special envoys that have become employment agencies of cadres you cannot deploy to parliament or cabinet. You have established so many of these and yet yielded no results. And now our people have lost faith in them. The Zondo Commission gave you recommendations. The Makana Commission of Inquiry gave you recommendations. The Life Asset Demand Inquiry gave you recommendations. What have you done with them? Nothing. You have established a presidentially advisory panel on land reform, a National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, a BBBE Advisory Council, an Economic Advisory Council, investment envoys, employment stimulus, and even a commission on the 4th Industrial Revolution. All of these are multi-million rand bureaucratic distractions that have delivered nothing. No land, no jobs, no industrialization, no justice, just more jargon. In light of the incompetency of the presidency, it has become the duty of the EFF to defend our democracy. It was the EFF that exposed the illegal SITA board appointments, including Minister Gwede Mantashe's own son and other ANC allies.
Objection, objection.
We forced
Objection, objection, objection.
Honorable Nolatungu, please take a chair. Honorable Minister, what is your point of order? Honorable Member, please take your seat. Honorable members.
In terms of Rule 92, read in conjunction with Rule 68, who irrelevant or out of order.
You're protecting your child.
That point of order is not sustained. Honorable Nolochungu, please proceed. Please proceed. Honorable Member, please proceed.
It was the EFF that exposed the illegal SITA board appointments, including Minister Gwede Mantashe's own son and other ANC allies.
Objection.
We forced their withdrawal, not because the ANC grew a conscience, but because we made the cost of corruption politically unbearable. We raised the same alarm with the IDC board, appointing Ayanda Dlodlo, Sidney Mufamadi, and Nomusa Dube, all retired, failed ANC politicians, now recycling themselves through public entities that control billions in public funds. You have turned the state institutions into a retirement scheme for loyalists. The EFF rejected it outright and demanded audits of every appointment because we understand when you control the boards, you control the tenders. When you control the tenders, you control the ANC. Honorable members, let me now speak to one of the most significant victories in democratic accountability in recent history, the VAT increase, and how the EFF stopped it. Earlier this year, the ANC attempted to ram through an illegal fiscal framework to increase VAT to 0.5%, which was an insult on the poor disguised as economic necessity. They tabled a report in Parliament that had not been voted on, violated Section 8, subsection 4 of the Money Bills Act, and was tainted by fraud. We raised the alarm and wrote to the Speaker. We warned that the law was being broken, but he ignored us. So we went to court. Eventually, the Western Cape High Court ruled in our favor and nullified the committee's resolutions and set aside the parliamentary adoption. Let us be clear, it was not the backroom deals that stopped the VAT increase. It was not so-called engagements by parties trying to claim credit in press conferences. It was the economic freedom fighters. After we were told of a constrained fiscus which required tax increases, we are insulted with a national dialogue that will cost 700 million. All because the ANC does not want to accept that the national dialogue happened on the 29th of May, 2024, and that national dialogue stripped them of their majority. We will attend that dialogue to remind you that it is not people of South Africa who have crippled the state with corruption. It is not the people of South Africa who destroyed law enforcement agencies. It is the ANC. It is not the people of South Africa who have destroyed the SOEs, failed to create jobs, and allowed drugs to destroy the youth. It is the ANC. The people have spoken, and they do not need 700 million to be spent to repeat the message they gave you at the ballot in 2024. This is the real legacy of the presidents: silence in the face of corruption, indecision in the face of crisis, and appointments designed to protect patronage over principle. No last attempt at legacy building will rescue your legacy. Mr. President, and perhaps you should have stayed in business because now you are tied to the rot of the ANC forever. The EFF rejects this report. Thank you.
Speaker.
Very much respect to Minrex, and then they will then say whether it's something that they agree with. Because
Honorable members on the platform, please mute your devices. Honorable members, order. Next speaker is the Honorable Khadebe.
Order.
My apologies, Honorable Khadebe. There's a point of order. Honorable Dagmore, what is your point of order?
Deputy Speaker, thank you. I rise on point, in fact, Rule 36, which specifically refers to the absence of members. And while appreciating the previous speech, the Honorable Malema is absent for a serious number of occasions. And I wondered if your office is investigating his absence as the leader of the EFF.
I wait.
Honorable Dagmore, thank you very much, but that is not a point of order to be raised now. And I would perhaps caution everyone, if we do start looking at who's present and who's not, that it could be a bit embarrassing for all parties. Honourable Maotwe, what is your point of order?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Deputy Chair, for your solid ruling. Mr. Dagmore must focus on being a whip of the ANC and lead
Honourable
our affairs. We're fine.
Maotwe, that is
President
not a point
is
of
the
order.
party leader here.
Honourable
But
Maotwe, that is
my-
not a
my-
point of order.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. My issue was on the president of the country, Mr. Ramaphosa. Watsiba, for nako e ngata, Deputy Speaker, nasa mamela, na dutse so ka re o robetse. So kra sa kra molaetsa wa mme chief whip ya rena hantle.
Honourable
Gore ka mo
Maotwe.
caution hore a tsohe, re mo mosebetsing mona. A sebetse, a ska robala, Deputy Speaker.
She's out of order, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, and perhaps just as a point of clarity, the table has informed me, honourable members, order. Table has informed me that the Honourable Malema is indeed online. This is a hybrid sitting. We will now proceed. My apologies, Honourable Khadebe, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, one cannot help but acknowledge the enormous yet surmountable task entrusted to the presidency.